though, I think that they are being forced to push something ahead of whatever's really going to happen. So we definitely need to be discerning within this next year. I wouldn't be surprised that things seem to be happening so quickly that something could happen in 2019 to get us to that point. And if we don't, as a species of people, believe. Matter of fact, here's what I think that they're afraid of. I think they're afraid that their efforts to spin this truth of disclosure before it really happens, I think they're worried that we're going to see through it. I think that's one of the algorithms they've run through their, nano computers, and that they're worried about. So it's going to be some major event that they're going to have to convince us to go their way.
Well, could it be maybe like you remember some of like the Space Invaders and all those shows years ago? Maybe stuff has been going on we don't know about. And, maybe this like they did with the, for the last few years against, people coming in trying to destroy our country, create chaos, kill people. Maybe there's been something going on for the last few years or more, and they're having a hard time covering it up anymore.
Well, here's
look at what happened. Go ahead, Michael.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Ronald. Look. Here's a great example. Just the beginning of this year, actually it was around May, I went to the McMinnville UFO Festival down there in Oregon. And that conference had 3 different retired military brass. These are officers, actually, who testified that the nukes were shut down all across the northern tier of America by supposed UFOs. Now, that was in the 80s when that happened. It just is now coming out, and they're allowing some kind of disclosure with just that information. So I think you're right, Gary. I think things like this have been happening all along, and they've just, been putting pressure on and trying to keep the lid on, but I think it's coming out for some reason now.
Well, another thing, too, is a good way to control the masses, too. If they made, I hate to say, like Ronald would say, basically a fake invasion or a fake something happening from outer space, maybe they could even use one of our lasers on one of our satellites and take out something and say, oh, my God, this came from outer space, it tried to unite humanity, I don't know. It's scary. I mean, to get any straight answers from anybody is like pulling teeth from a baby. It doesn't have any.
History has shown us. Look at World War One. A major event kicked off World War One. World War Two. Major event strike kicked off World War Two. Vietnam. Major event kicked off Vietnam. The War on Terror. The major event that took down the Twin Towers kicked off the War on Terror. Now we're going to have the war against aliens. So there's going to be some type of major event equivalent to Pearl Harbor, 9/11, the Gulf of Tonkin, and as you can tell, the powers that be don't really respect human life, so I wouldn't be surprised if something, when you look at a movie like Independence Day where a ship hovers over a major city, shoots down a beam, and just evaporates 50 square miles and kills 5 or 10 million people in a second. I could see something like that happening, especially with the direct energy weapon technology that the governments have. And I think we're at a point where we need someone like Stephen. Something is not right about Dr. Stephen Greer and his Project Disclosure, because I watched his last documentary, and he's apparently holding all the cards, but he's piecemealing it out little bits of a time, and he's not getting to the truth. It's like, why are we being blocked with this Project Disclosure? It's almost like it was becoming the be-all, end-all of disclosure, and he was leading us down the path to disclosure, and disclosure was going to happen, but then he stopped. It seems something's not right about that, and I think that really kind of sabotaged people for about 15 years with what he was doing. I felt like he might have been like a front guy for the CIA as a distraction, and now we don't have anybody we can rely on to give us the truth.
Yeah, Ronald, what you're saying is correct. The the famous Canadian ufologist Grant Cameron mentions that in one of his books, I forget which one it was, is that the government raises up these, what he calls messiahs. Dr. Greer says aliens are all good, and Tom DeLonge says aliens are all bad, but they kind of bring up these people that confuse the mass public on who to believe and what to believe, so they can keep people, in under control, because they don't really get all the information. And of course, we've all heard that rumor that Wernher von Braun warned us about the various false flags that are going to happen, and the last one was going to be the false alien invasion. He was saying that back 20, 30 years ago when he was still alive. So it's just a fascinating time to be alive, for one thing, because of all the things that seem to be coming to a head right now on our planet.
Well, that's what's scary.
I think that you're 100% right. I'm glad we're all on the same page, because it is an interesting time, and I kind of wonder if this whole thing is real, if this reality is real, because I was listening to what Elon Musk has been saying in his interviews, and he's saying that there's a 1 in billions chance we're even living in base reality, that this is all some type of a computer simulation. So I don't know what to think anymore, really. I'm kind of confused, but yet I'm living in this reality that feels real and dealing with all these issues, and we're dealing with trying to bring out the truth. And, what do we do? How do we get to the truth? How do we even know when we get to the truth that the truth is the truth? I listened to someone say that it's really all about, over the years, we've had confirmation, and we rely on confirmation, and we've confirmed things as a species for decades and centuries. And every time we confirm something and come to a conclusion, we realize that those conclusions are wrong, and we update our conclusion. And we're continuously updating these conclusions that we have come to that are proven to be false later on when we come up with a new conclusion. So it's like the truth is the truth in the moment, but then later on we find out these truths aren't truths, and that we have a new truth, and the truth is always changing. And so when do we really get to the truth?
Well, it won't happen.
I'm confused.
It won't happen. I'm going to go back to the Finks. You know that? I'm going to just talk about that really crazy for a minute. Okay, for many, many, many decades, they said that the Finks, the wear marks, was created from sandstorms. Now, here recently, they came to the conclusion that the Finks, those wear marks, was not created in the back of the Finks from sandstorms. It was created from a ocean wear.
Right.
Now, really, when you start thinking about that puts us before we started walking the earth. Now, now, what do you start believing? Now it gets into, well, who tells us the truth? Who doesn't tell us the truth? How were the pyramids made? Were they made by us humans or pre-humans? Or were we ourselves? Are we aliens walking on this earth that maybe we were brought here as slave labor for them getting resources off of our earth? I don't know. But all I know is nothing that we have been taught from grade school, college, and all this stuff, it really makes me wonder how much of it was real and how much of it was this garbage.
I think it's all garbage. I'm starting to think that it's all just garbage. It's all brain garbage, and we've been indoctrinated into a reality that's completely false, and we don't know what the truth is. I mean, like I said kind of at the beginning, we've been trained to eat 3 meals a day and exercise, but that really just reaches us to our last heartbeat quicker. So why is exercise and eating good? I don't know. My sister and I have been working on coming up with the ideal diet of just consuming vitamin C and just the bare amino acids that we need from certain plants. What do we really need to be eating dead cooked animals, or should we just be consuming these bare essential minerals and vitamins and amino acids that we need? Just enough to keep us, at optimum performance, because, with heart disease and diabetes and cancer inflicting everybody across Earth, What's the truth on nutrition? What's the truth on longevity? Are we even real? Is this Earth spinning? There's no proof we're on a spinning sphere. That's why I'm going to New Zealand to speak on the fact that there's no proof or evidence or video footage of us spinning on a sphere.
Well, how about the videos coming from the space? Up there, taking pictures of Earth, showing the Earth turning. How do you account for that? From the space labs or whatever you call it.
CGI footage. It's all CGI and compilation footage.
Okay.
Space footage.
Now, I've been in aircraft, which was up pretty high, and you could see the curvature of the Earth. So that tells me the Earth can't be flat. I don't know how you feel about that, Michael, but I have seen in my military days, I've been on an aircraft one time that I could see the curvature of the Earth. You can actually, in an airliner, see the curvature of the Earth. So I can't believe the Earth is flat. No way. That one I rule out, okay?
Yeah, well,
have you watched Eric Day's video of 200 proofs the Earth is not a spinning globe? I was just curious.
Well, here's the interesting aspect of that, because that is an interesting idea that, we could be living on a planet that's not necessarily rotating for some reason. But, I've always been fascinated by the fact that the moon supposedly is not rotating. And I'm thinking that most all of the celestial bodies that we know of supposedly spin. So why doesn't the moon do that? That just opens up a whole Pandora's box right there of if the moon is not spinning, what indeed is reality out there for even just our solar system,
Not only is it not spinning, but it's not reflecting sunlight. It's actually emitting its own ambient light. So therefore, why would it even have cycles? Why wouldn't it just be a full moon all the time?
Yeah, there you go. And of course, there's the whole inner Earth theory as well, that there's a sun inside the planet that's emitting some of this ambient light potentially.
Yeah. So, again, we're back to square one. What's the truth? How do we even get to access the information of the truth? I'm sure at a certain level, these corporations that are posing as governments know what the real truth is, but it's being held tightly under their control, and we have no way to get to it. And if we attempt to, we're incarcerated or murdered.
Well, how about, you talk about the New World Order, okay? How about the New World Order, and you go back into all these groups that's supposed to, like the Queen of England, Bush, and all these people belong to, and I'm not going to use that word of that group, right? We all know who I'm talking about. How do we know that they weren't and are not aliens? And they're controlling our government.
We don't. In fact, I think they're controlled by some type of forces that we don't understand, and they're just kind of there as meat puppets to direct our lives and our reality. I think that there's something definitely going on with beings that we don't understand controlling, politicians who are pretending to be our leaders. I think there's definitely something to that.
Yes. Matter of fact, I have a theory that as long as they can keep us confused and worried, they are controlling us. The whole idea that the reptilian loosh that people talk about, where the idea that they can live off of our fears, that's like a rush to them. The people on the planet that are controlling the planet are probably, like you said, Ronald, they're just the earthly representatives of some off-planet civilization that's been given authority over this planet since the beginning. And I think what the real issue is that the population in general is now raising their consciousness on a global manner, and it's being harder and harder to control us and to keep us confused and worried. And I think that's why some of this last-minute push for disclosure and the spin on the truth and reality is happening right now. I think they're a little scared and running scared here for the people that are trying to control things. I think that's why things are happening so quickly right now.
Well, maybe what's going on in Washington, D.C.